So I'm curious, you mentioned some of the different tools that are out there. How is AI fitting into this and, things like ChatGPT?
You can do a lot of fun things. So there's a good graph that I show people in some presentations where you kind of go down this little waterfall of, can the output be done without, like, by a robot without affecting the quality? Okay. Is it done on a certain schedule, or is there a trigger? Go down different paths. The whole point of the visual is to show that before you had to have very, yes, no. Is it a 0? Is it a 1? That's going to be what determines the different paths. But now, because we can put effectively ChatGPT in the middle of an automation, we can actually read something and then assign it a category or assign it that 0 or 1 that didn't exist at the beginning. So an example would be like an email comes into a support inbox. You can read that email with AI and say, should this go to the support team? Should it go to the product team? Should it go to the founder? And if we have good definitions of each of those categories, then we can triage those things much more efficiently. And we don't have to have a person looking at that inbox anymore. It can just be the next, you're pushing that decision a little bit further down. Yeah. And so it's a very exciting time where then you can start to do what's called prompt chaining. You can put multiple prompts together and do some really cool things like creating content or at least ideating on new things, doing pre-podcast production work. There's a lot of really exciting things that can happen. And then you start to get into like, what's the difference between an automation with AI and an AI agent? A whole nother can of worms. But it's an exciting time.
I'm curious, when you mention how you chain those together, in that scenario, how are you chaining them together? What tool?
Yeah, good question. So let's go through an example that is on our website right now. It's called call to content. So what we do is we say, when a new meeting transcript comes in, we want to identify topics in there based on what you typically talk about. Then we want to make them opinionated in the context of the conversation. So I call that a spicy take. So make it spicy. Mm-hmm. Then write a hook for the post and then write a full post. Okay. So that's 4 different AI requests.
Okay.
What that looks tactically is that it's actually just a single automation in Zapier that is going to say, I see a new transcript. I'm going to pass that to the first AI prompt, the first ChatGPT question. And it's, what are the topics? Good. It's going to pull out 5. Then it's going to hand those 5 to the next one. And the next one is going to go one by one and say, I need to make this opinionated, this one topic opinionated in the context of the transcript. It's going to make a spicy take. Then that spicy take is going to be handed to another prompt. So these are all just in sequence, one by one. And then when you get to step 3, it creates that hook, the very first sentence. And then we take the hook with the spicy take with the transcript. So all 3 are building upon each other. And we say, write a LinkedIn post. And so that is those 4 all depend on each other, or I guess, 2 depends on 1, 3 depends on 1 and 2, et cetera, to build an actual output, which is an idea for a post that I go and edit afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. And that's where you then jump in and finalize and
exactly.
So in that scenario, though, when you still said there's a handshake, is that handshake from one prompt to another? Who's handshaking who? Because you mentioned a Zap before, but does the Zap go to a ChatGPT, or how does it get fed?
Yeah. So breaking it down really tactically, right? When you look at a Zap, an automation in Zapier or Make, you'll have the triggering app, which could be a schedule like Friday at 5, or it could be that transcript getting created. The next step, the next app that we're going to call will be ChatGPT.
Okay.
And so then it'll be first step Fathom, which is the note recorder I use. Then the next one will be ChatGPT, 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 ChatGPT. And then to me, it goes to ClickUp, but that could go to a Google Doc, a Word doc, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So then each time it's calling on ChatGPT, is it a specific instance that's been created that's already, or it's just a prompt that then gets fed? Like, I'm trying to think about how that piece then, communicates, but you're able to tell it this is the prompt that you're running it through.
So it's a unique prompt. I'm not using any sort of memory function. I know that is possible, but I'm not just because I'm keeping that same context through each one. So
Sure.
I
Okay.
put the whole transcript in all 4 of those.
Okay. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then are you doing anything right now with like agents at all?
Yeah, it is something that we're getting into a lot more. That was my epiphany over the weekend, was really thinking about how we can incorporate that much more in the business.
Yeah.
I think that when you look at call to content with an automation that's got 4 prompts in it, a lot of people would consider that like an agent, right? You've got a content writer agent in there. The difference between what that is, that automation with prompting, and an agent is that it allows you to take in a dynamic input and kind of make decisions based on that. So, as a different example, it'd be like, I'm about to have a meeting. Go and find these people on LinkedIn. I'm not going to give the LinkedIn URL. So go find them on LinkedIn, read some of their recent posts. Maybe they've got 2, maybe they've got 50. Read the posts, check my email for the most recent emails in the last week. Maybe it's 2, maybe it's 50, and then come back and write an agenda. So we're taking in a dynamic number of inputs from different places. That is more of an agent type of environment. And so we are starting to experiment with more of those things internally. And I actually think it's an interesting point of discussion for your listeners, is like, I'm kind of struggling with this idea of the chicken or egg of building agents. And the problem is that if I go to you and let's say you write SEO blog posts, you're not really going to want to train an agent on how to do that, because that would leave you probably out of a job, or you or one of your friends at the company.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, I could go to someone that knows how to build agents and teach them SEO, but how long will that work to get such granular knowledge or grasp of the subject?
Yeah.
So you kind of have this, like, do you teach the technical person the new skill, or do you teach the skilled person, the SEO writer, the technical skill, or neither, right? Or you find an outside source. And so at our company, I am trying to replace myself to understand how this would work. So I'm still on calls with our clients and our leads, but all of the analysis I'm trying to give to an AI agent to understand how it would work, because I'm okay being replaced. I would love to have a little bit more time. So it's an interesting way to think about it, but I think that's going to be the big problem that big companies face here coming soon, is who is going to be the knowledge giver in order to enable that progression of knowledge work.